In this video, we're going to go through on St. Hilda's Primary School, Primary 4, Term 3 Weighted Assessment 2024. So let's get started. So, first question. The table below shows the number of curry puffs Mr. Ali sold on Sunday. How many potato curry puffs were sold on that Sunday? So you see it's a table over here. We have chicken curry puffs, which is 112, potato curry puffs, which is what we are looking for, and a total which is 290. So what we're going to do is that basically we have our total minus our chicken curry puffs. So let's write potato equal to 290 minus 112. So this should give us the answer of 178. Oops, 78. Okay, and that's the answer to this, right? So if you do your workings correctly, double check as well, your answer should be 178 in this case. So in this case, the option 2. All right, let's move on to the next question. Question 2. Name the angle below. So if an angle, have A, B, and C with an angle X, right? So usually, if you want to name an angle, you have to start from one of the sides. It can be A or C, and then the middle one, which is B, and then the other side of the angle, which is C. So we don't actually use X at all. So in this case, if you want to name, there's two answers to this actually. So first is we're going to put in the angle A, B, C, right? So in essence, if I were to just put it like this, angle A, B, and then C, that's how it looks like. Okay, so we can start from here, or what we can do is we can actually say C, B, and then A, right? So this is also correct as well. So this can be also angle C, B, and A, right? So in this case, we have these two options. But if you were to look at our options for this, right, you could see that the only option that we have that is according to what we wrote down here is option number 1. Okay, which is the answer. Answer is 1. 1. All right, that's it. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Question 3. Okay, in the figure below, how many angles are smaller than the right angle? So we have, I think this is what we call a trapezium, right? So how many angles are smaller than a right angle? So the right angle essentially looks something like this. Okay, so you have a right angle. Okay, most of the time you also put in a square to indicate this is a right angle. Right. So how do you know it is smaller than a right angle? Okay. First thing is visually, what we can do is we can actually see lah, right? So in essence, if you were to see this kind of angles, right, where if we were to draw a line and then we do a right angle and it has more than 90 degrees, then this is not the angle that we want. Okay. Same thing here. We have a line, we draw a right angle and it has more than 90 degrees. This is not the right angle. If you go here, if you draw a line and we draw a right angle, it actually has some space, then this is the angle that we want. Okay. And lastly, over here, we draw a right angle and it has some space, that means this is also a right angle as well. So I mean, it's smaller than the right angle. So that's the easiest way that you can do visually. So the answer should be number 2. In this case over here. Alrighty. Okay, let's move on to question number 4. Okay, question number 4 says express 2 3 out of 5 as an improper fraction. So what is an improper fraction? Basically, if I were to put it down, an improper fraction is basically having a number, for example, in this case 5 over 2, having the numerator more than the denominator itself, something like this, in this case over here, right? So this is what we call an improper fraction, a fraction that we never simplify. Okay, so now we have this where it says here 2 3 out of 5 as an improper fraction. So I'm gonna put it down here. Okay, actually, I'm gonna put it. So I'm gonna put here as 3. Gonna put here as 5, and then I'm gonna put the whole number as 2. Okay, so how do we do this then? Okay, so if you remember, to get a mixed number to an improper fraction, usually what we need to do is, first thing first, let me just put this, make it as big as possible. Right, so number 2 over here, what we need to do is we need to multiply the number 2 as what you see over here. Okay, in this case, right? So I don't know why the 2 looks like this, right? But I'm gonna put it like this, right? So 2, and then we multiply by 5. Okay, and then after that, the next thing is, once we multiply by 5, the next thing is from 5 over here, right? Whoops, we want to add the number 3. Okay, something like this, right? So this 3 over here, we want to add, not multiplier, add. Okay, so in essence, it will look something like this. Okay, so this will be equal to basically 2, where 2 times 5 plus 3, and then we have a line over our denominator, which is 5 in this case, right? So to just recap, basically the whole number multiply the denominator plus the numerator in this. So what do you think the answer to this? 2 times 5 plus 3. So 2 times 5 is 10 plus 3 is 13. So that means the answer to this, okay, is equal to 13, right? 13 out of 5 in this case over here. Oops, right? So that's the answer. So always make sure that you remember how to convert a mixed number to an improper fraction. So where is 13 out of 5? In this case over here, the option number 2. So that's the answer. The answer is 2 in this case. All right, let's move on to the next question. Question 5. Okay, so what is, wait a second, what is 5 out of 8 of 24? Okay, so when you read this kind of question, when you see the word of over here, this means it's basically times. So you multiply. So that means this is the same as, right? 5. Okay, so I'm going to put equal to, and then 5, 8, right? 5 over 8. And then we're going to have it multiply by 24, right? Times 24. That's about it. Okay. So one way you can do it is you can uh, cancel things out, right? So 8 and 24, what we can do is we can cancel it out. So 8, if we have 8 divided by 8 and 8 divided by 24, then what we can do is it will become 1 in this case, and then 24 will become 3. Okay, so if I were to actually do the proper way, so we just divide by 8 in this case, right? So we have divide by 8. Oops, want to make it very, very small. Divide by 8 in this case, right? And then we divide by 24, right? Then this will give us 1. So this will give us 1. So I just put 1 here. And 24 divided by 8, this will give us 3, right? So now we can also have, so 5 over 1, this will become, oops, right? This will become 5 times 3, which is equal to 15. That's it. So the answer to this is 15 in this case over here, right? So the answer is 1. There you go. Let's move on to the next question. Question 6, right? Find the sum of 1/3 and 1/2, 1/2, 1 out of 2. So in this case, what does sum means? Okay, so sum means plus. So you want to add 1/3 plus 1 over 2, right? Something like this. 1/3 plus 1 over 2. Okay, so essentially, first thing first is, since the denominators are different, first step is we want to get the lowest common multiple, right? So in this case, 2 and 3 is essentially 6, right? So since we know this is 6, then we just need to multiply these two numbers. Okay, so in a way, so times 3, how to get 6? We multiply by 2, right? So in this case, we just multiply by 2 for this, and we multiply by 2 for this as well. So 1/3 times 2, and then 1, 3, half times 3, and then 1 times 3 as well. Okay, and then we just add them together. So this will give us, okay, equal to, right? And then, so this will give us, in this case, 2, 6. I will put a line here, 2, 6, right? And then plus, so this should be 3, 6 in this case. And 2, 6 out plus 3, 6, what will this give us? If your answer is not 2, 6, 5, 6, then you're right. So the answer in this case is 5/6. So where do we get 5/6? This is option 4. So the answer for question 6 is option 4. Alrighty, let's move on to the next question. Alright, question 7. Okay, the line graph below shows the number of members in a reading club from January to April. Alright, so I think before we were to do any question related to graphs, what we want to do is to always have the numbers, right? So always write the numbers. Okay, so for January, what do you think is the number of members? Okay, if you think the number of members is 25, you're right. Okay, why 25 is because if you were to look where this dot is showing us, it's 25. Okay, great. What about February? February is 15. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put here 15. Okay, what about March? Okay, March over here, if we draw the line, this should be 30. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna write here 30, and then last one, April over here, right? April. So April all the way, this should be 10. Okay, and that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna put this as 10. All right. Okay. So now we have the numbers for each month. We have a better sense on what to answer the question over here. Okay. So in this question, the greatest decrease in the number of members is from which month to which month? Okay, so let's go through one by one. January to February. So we know that January over here. Okay, so let's put January 25, February is 15, March is 30, and then 10 is April. I'll put at the bottom. Okay, easier as well. Okay, all right. Okay, so now you see January to February. So January to February, basically it decreased, right? But how much did it decrease? Okay, so it decreased from 25 to 15, which is in this case over here, minus 10, right? 25 minus 10, it becomes 15. So for this, we can write down, okay, here is minus 10, right? So that's the decrease. Okay, next one, January to April. So we have January and then to April. So from January to April, if I were to draw an arrow, okay, so January to April, this is 25 to 10, which is minus 15. Okay, so we can just write that also, minus 15. All right, next one, February to March. All right, so let's have February to March. So 15 to 30, that's not a decrease, that is a increase, right? Plus 15, right? 15 to 30 is 15. So in a way, you can put here plus, but it's not decrease. So decrease over here means that we need to make it a minus, a negative, right? Negative, right? So in this sense, right? For February to March, no. Okay. And then lastly, we have March to April. So March to April, from 30 to 10, that means in this case, it is minus what? Minus 20, right? So minus 20. So from here, which one has the greatest, right? Greatest means another word for greatest is biggest. Okay. Biggest negative number. Okay, so that means in this case, if you were to look at it, which one has the biggest negative number? The answer is 4. So for question 7, the answer is 4 over here. There you go. Okay, not red, black. Alrighty, so that's question 7. Okay, let's move on to question 8. All right, question 8 says here, in this case, subtract 7 over 9 from 5. So question 8 says subtract 7 over 9 from 5 over here. Okay, so what does from 5 means? Basically, it means 5 minus, and then you have the fraction, right? Which is 7 over, 7 over 9 in this case over here, right? So that is what this whole thing means, right? From 5 means you have 5 minus 7, 9. Right. Okay. So then what will this become? So this will actually, we need to convert 5 into we call this a, not mixed number, but improper fraction. So how do we get a whole number into improper fraction? Basically, we need to have 5 multiply by 9 over here. So in essence, right, it will look something like this, right? So I'm going to, So this thing is basically 5 times 9, okay, in this case over 9, right? This is what 5 whole number looks like. Okay, let me just put this in the middle like this. Okay, alrighty. Okay, so 5 over 9, 5 times 9 over 9, and then we have minus 7 over 9. Okay, all right, something like this. Okay, so what is in this case, right? So 5 times 9 over 9 minus 7 over 9. Okay, so 5 times 9 is basically, if you remember your 9 multiplication table, should be 45. Okay, and then we minus 7 over 9. Okay, and then 45 minus 7 over 9, I think pretty straightforward. This will give us, okay, this will give us how much? 45 minus 7 over 9, this will give us 38. Okay, so the thing is that sadly they don't give us 38 out over 9, so we need to simplify this. Okay, so 38 over 9, how do we simplify this? We need to have it basically 38, then we have divide, right? Divide by 9. Okay, so the simplest way is to find what multiple of 9 is close to 38. So 38 should be, so if you want to draw out, right, 9, 18, we put it here, then you have 27, 36, 45. Okay, so if you look at it, it's actually 36. So 36 basically multiple 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means this is a whole number. Okay, so here should be 4. Okay, let's see, there's a 4, right? 4, then we have 36 minus 38. This should give us 32, right? So 32, 38 should be, oh, sorry, not 32, but 2 over 9. Okay, so if you were to divide 38 divided by 9, this actually gives us 4, remainder 2. And that's how it looks like. Okay, so your remainder should be the numerator, and the whole number quotient should be the whole number itself. So 4, 2 over 9. So the answer to question 8 is 4, 2 over 9. Okay, in this case over here. Number 3. There you go. Alrighty. Let's move on to question 9. Okay, question 9 says a ribbon is 1.4 meters long. A string is 1.6 meter longer than the ribbon. What is the total length of the ribbon and string? Okay, so if you want to visualize it, you can. So for example, you have the ribbon, and then you also have the stirring. Okay, so in any case, ribbon is, in this case, is 1.4. I'm going to put 1.4. I mean, not 1.4, 1 out of 4. Okay, and then for the string, it says here that it is longer than the ribbon, right? How long? 1 point or 1 out of 6 meters long. Okay, so basically the question asks not for how long is the string, but in this case, what is the total length of both the ribbon and the string. So that means for both cases over here, right, what is the total length? Okay, so that means we need to calculate every single thing, right? So what I'm going to do is, so total is equal to, right, equal to, basically going to copy the fractions over here, right? So I'm going to do this here. Oops. So I'm going to copy this, paste this over here. So 1 out of 4. So 1 out of 4 plus. Okay. So we also want to have another 1 out of 4 over here. Okay. So 1 out of 4. And then we also want to plus what? Right? I think you know, right? The answer is not 7 out of 6, 1 out of 6. Okay. All right. So we have different, what do you call this? Different denominators. So what is the first step? Okay. We have to look back. What is the first step? Step 1, get the lowest common multiple. Right. So let's get that. Lowest common multiple of 4 and 6. Okay, so what's the lowest common multiple of 4 and 6? If you think it's 24, then you're absolutely wrong. It's not. It's actually 12, right? Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to make all of this into denominators of 12. Okay, so in this case over here, total is this. I'm just going to move this up. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to make this an equal sign. And the thing is that in a way, we actually can simplify this even further. So this, in a way, it will become, if you guessed it, it is actually 2 out of 4. 2 out of 4 plus 1 over 6. Okay. So still 4 and 6, but okay lah. I mean, from here you actually can make it into the lowest common multiple denominator into 12. So what we're going to do is 4 times what equals 12? 3, right? Times 3. Okay, so that's what we're going to times 3. So we're going to have 4 times 3 and 2 times 3 as well. And what times 6 equal to 12, right? If you guessed it, it's times 2. Here you go. Times 2 and times 2 is will, right? So now this will equal to 2 out of 4 will become, I don't need a 3, 3 can remove. So 2 times 3 equal to 6. 4 times 3 equal to 12. Very good. And then 1 out of 6, if you have the denominator, this will also become 2 out of 12. There you go. Now we have 6 out of 12 plus 2 out of 12. And this will equal to 6 plus 2 equal to 8 out of 12, right? In this case. So 8 out of 12, right? So now the thing is that 8 out of 12, if we were to simplify it, how what can we simplify? What's the common multiple between these two? Okay, so if you guessed it, 8 and 12 can be divided by 4. So you can divide both by 4. And this is equal to 8 divided by 12. 8 divided by 4, 2. 12 divided by 4, 3. And the answer is 2/3. 2/3 meter in this case. So the answer is 4. Okay, a lot of steps. But it's good to see it out. Okay, so question 9 is 2 out of 3. All right. Let's move on to the next question. Question 10. Oops, let me zoom this in. Oh my god. Okay, which of the following statement is true? Right. So let's go through each statement. AOB is an obtuse angle. So you have AOB is an obtuse angle. So what does obtuse mean? Right. So in this case, the obtuse angle, right? Obtuse means, oh yeah, correct. Obtuse means more than what? More than how many? 90 degrees. Okay. So the thing is that is AOB over here, right? AOB, let me draw, let me have the line over here. Red. So AOB over here, is it more than 90 degrees? No, it's not. Okay, so AOB over here is not more than 90 degrees. Sad life. Okay, so we're gonna remove this. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, AOC is an acute angle. So what is an acute angle, right? So an acute angle, acute is what? More, so less than how many? 100? No, 90 degrees. Okay, acute is less than 90 degrees. So let's look into AOC. So we have A, O, and then C. Is this more than 90 degree? Yes, but we are asking for acute. So that means it should be less than 90, but this is more, right? This is more. Sadly, sad life, right? More sad life. Muy, pop, pop. Okay, so that means this is wrong as well. Okay, all right, let's move on to the next statement over here. Right, let me remove everything here. The unhappy face. Okay, next one. BOC is a right angle. So you see a BOC is a right angle. So what you can do is, how do you measure a right angle? Okay, so what is a right angle, right? So right angle, okay, here right is equal to 90 degrees. Okay, so there's no statement that says this is not drawn to scale. So that means we actually can use something to measure our right angle. So what we can do is we actually can use our handy dandy ruler. So our ruler actually can actually measure 90 degrees, because the corner of all what do you call this ruler is actually 90 degrees. Okay, let's see if this actually is 90 degrees. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna align one side of the ruler straight, okay, something like this. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna slide it over. That's what you see over here. Okay, so the thing is this 90 degrees? No, it's not. Sadly, it is not 90 degrees, because over here it is actually more than 90 degrees. There's some space over here. So it's not 90 degrees, or it's not a right angle. Sadly, this is wrong as well. So from this, do you think that what do you call this? The last option is correct. So COD over here is an acute angle. So it's less than 90 degrees. So COD, is it a what do you call this? Is it a less than 90 degrees angle? So if we were to draw a straight line, right, perpendicular line, so you can see COD over here is actually less, which is a smiley face. Yay, right? Therefore, in this case, the answer to COD, this is correct. Okay, so that means COD, it is an acute angle. Very cute. All right, so in this case, the option 4 is the correct answer. All right, let's move on to the next question. Question 11. Okay, so question 11, there were 72 marbles in a box. One of the marbles are blue, the rest are red. How many more red marbles than blue marbles are there? Okay, so what we need to do is we need to calculate the blue marbles and the red marbles. So for this is I would say part of a set, right? So one out of 72 marbles. Okay, so what we can do is we can say blue is equal to 1 out of 8. I'm gonna do this, all right, times 72, right? It's actually the same as 72 divided by, we have divide by 1 over 8. Okay, I mean 8. Okay, why we say this is because if you were to, let me grab a fraction like this. Okay, so if I were to, okay, make this a little bit easier to see. All right, so for example here, it's not 2/3. Blue is 1 out of 8. Okay, so you see the word off? Off means what? Off means multiply. So 1 of 8 of the marbles, right? So how many what is the total number of marbles? In this case, it is 72, right? So you see 72. So that means this is 72. So 1/8, then we have times, right? Times 72. Okay? All right. So in a way, you can say that it's 72 divided by 8, because it's just putting 72 on the numerator. Okay, so if you remember your multiples of 8, they should be equal to 9. So 72 divided by 8 is 9, right? Okay, so now we know that blue is 9. How much is red? Okay, so I will say the easiest way is to actually minus. Okay, so red is equal to, we have our total 72 minus blue 9. Okay, this will become 63, right? So red is 63. Okay, so always read the question, because sometimes you buy, oh yeah, it's 63. Okay, the answer is 63. No, no, no. So we need to minus 63 and 9 over here. Okay, so what we can do is, let me just highlight this. So how many more red marbles than blue marbles, right? Obviously, we have more red marbles than blue marbles in this case. Okay, so how much more? Then we can move on to the last step, which is to minus. Okay, so we can minus, right? So let's have that. Okay, so 63 minus 9, and this gives us 54, right? So that's the answer. So how many more red marbles? 54. Okay, and this is the answer over here. Okay, so I also want to share with you also another way to do this. So we know that blue marbles, right, is 1 over 8. Okay, and then another way is basically, so we know blue marble is 1 over 8. So let me do that. So blue is equal to 1 over 8 over here. Then what about red? Okay, so red is basically 1 whole minus 1 over 8. Correct or not? Right? So 1. So I'm going to put here 1 minus 1 over 8. And what will this give us? So this will give us, let me put here. So this will give us how much? 7 over 8. Right? 7 over 8. All right. So we know that blue and red marble fractions, right? Let me just put this a bit more like here. Export this. Okay. So how much more? So in a way, I want to call this whole thing the difference. So how much more red marbles is actually a difference. How many more red marbles than blue marbles? So this is actually another way to say this is the, oops, this is the difference. Okay. So this is the difference. So in essence, we also can calculate the difference. So here we say difference is basically, in this case, 7 over 8. Let me make the line a little bit smaller so I can use fewer space, less space. Okay, so 7 over 8, right? Minus 1 over 8. So I'm going to duplicate this. So this is 1. And then I'm going to duplicate this. So this is minus. Okay, and what will this give us? This will give us 6 out of 8, right? 6 out of 8. All right, so this is the fraction for the difference. So now we want to have the difference in difference in marbles, which is basically 6 out of 8, and then we can multiply it by 72. Okay, so in a way, to simplify this a lot, right? You can actually put this in the equation, which is the same as, oops, okay, this is the same as equal to, all right, 6 times 72 divided by 8, right? You can actually cancel, right? You don't have to do that, right? So 8 and 72, we can cancel it. So 8 we cancel, and then 72 we cancel, divide by 8. This will give us 9. Okay, and then from here you have 6 times 9 essentially, so this will give us 54, which is also the answer, right? So there's two ways to do this. This is the whichever way you think is simpler, you can do that way as well. All right, okay, hopefully this gives you a more options to do one problem lah. Okay, all right, let's move on to question 12. Okay, question 12 says here, the table below shows the number of stickers 5 friends collected. Answer question 12 and 13. Okay, so we have a table. Okay, so we have Rita, Sam, Tina, Uma, and Violet, and all of their different number of stickers. Okay, so in this case, who collected the least number of stickers? Okay, let's go one by one. So for Rita over here, okay, so let's go to Rita. Rita is 76. Is Rita the least amount of stickers? Not really. Actually, we can check lah. Right from here, you probably see who is the least amount. Sadly, it's not Rita, but it's Uma. Because Uma is 52. So the answer to this is Uma. Right. So pretty straightforward. The answer is 3 over here. All right. Let's move on to the next question. Who collected twice as many stickers as Sam? Right. So we want to know basically in essence. So this person we are looking for is equal to twice, which is 2 times Sam. So how much is Sam? Not Sim. Sam. Sam. Okay, if you look here, Sam is 152. Okay. So basically this person, right, is collecting 2 times of Sam, which is 152. So 2 times 152 is equal to 304. Okay, so we want to look for 304. Okay, who is the one that collects 304 stickers? So this person is collecting 304 stickers. So let's see. Anyone got 304 stickers? We can, right? The answer is here. Violet. So in this case, the answer to this question is violet, which is option number 4. All right, let's move on to the next question. So we come to booklet B. Okay, so booklet B over here, it says question 14, what is the improper fraction represented by the letter A on a number line over here? Okay, so we have 5, we have 4, and we have 6. I think this is a very big hint. I think this is someone added in, but never mind. So what we can do is we can actually get a number of gaps in between 4 to 5. So we have 1 gap, 2 gap, 3 gap, 4 gap, and 5. So each individual lines over here is in essence, right? If I were to draw like this, is essentially 1 out of 5, right? In this case over here, right? So for 1 out of 5, so you want improper fraction. So essentially, if we were to put in as a mixed number, this will be 4 out of 1 out of 5. So let's start simple first, right? 4 1 out of 5 first. Okay, then later on we can uh make it into a improper fraction as what this question wants. Okay, so what we can do is we move here for this will be 4 what out of 5, 2 out of 5. Okay, and then we move here to A, which is in this case 4. Then this is 3 out of 5. Okay, and then how do you convert this into a improper fraction? So this is what we call a mixed number. So we need to change this into a improper fraction. So I think earlier I mentioned it. We have our whole number, right? So our whole number we need to multiply it. Okay, so 4 times 5 in this case, right? So let me not put there, but let me put it as such. So 4 over here times 5. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to multiply. Okay, multiply this. So this one is easier like this. Ooh, right, and this, let me just put it below here, right? Okay, 4 times 5 like this, right? And then after that, we also want to add the 5 to a 3 in this case over here. So we want to add. Okay, all right. So what will this look like? Basically, this will equal to. So you can also remember this thing where you just have your, oops, right? So let me put it here. So you have your 4, your whole number times the denominator 5 plus 3. So that's like the whole equation. That's what you see over here. Okay. So in this case, what will be the answer for 4 times 5 plus 3? If your answer is 23, then you're right. Okay. So in this case, let me just put here 23 out of 5. Okay. 23 out of 5. Make it a little bit smaller so that it's you can fit, right? And then here 23 out of 5. So that's the answer, 23 out of 5. Over here, that's the answer, 23 out of 5. Okay, alrighty. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so question 15, it says here, what fraction of the set below is shaded? So we want to know what is shaded. Give your answer as a fraction in the simplest form. Okay, so in a way, what's the total number of diamonds, right? Total, let me put here, total diamonds. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, 9. Then shaded diamonds. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Okay. Therefore, the fraction that we want to give is, so fraction of shaded is equal to, basically, in this case, it is 6 out of 9. Okay. And then we put the line if you want to. Okay, I'll be putting the line. Okay. Then this will equal to, so what can we divide 6 out of 9 to? Okay, so we can divide it by, divide, not times. Divide by 3. Okay, so the common multiple is 3. All right. So this is the longer way. For those who want to do the long way, that's fine as well. And in this case over here, you can simplify it to 6 divided by 3 is 2, 9 is 3. Okay, so that's the answer, 2 out of 3. Okay, what is the faster way to do this, right? The faster way is actually, since they box it up for you, actually it's pretty straightforward, right? So actually the shaded one is 1, 2, the non-shaded one is 3. So essentially it's 2 out of 3. Yeah, that's it. Right. So, but if you want to do the longer way, that's fine as well. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, let's move on to question 16. So, question 16 says here, the table below shows the number of students who are right-handed and left-handed in class 4A and 4B. Find the missing or fill in the missing numbers. That's what you see over here. Okay, so what we can do is we can look at this. We have the right-handed, left-handed, and total. So total is basically total number of students who are right-handed and left-handed. So we can add this together. So in a way, we have 33 plus 7, right? So in this case, we have 33 plus 7. Okay, the answer is 40. So the answer to this A is 40 students, right, in class A. Right, here 4B, who are right-handed? So we know the total, right, total, and we know the left-handed, so we just minus. Okay, pretty straightforward. So 38 minus 9 is equal to 29 in this case over here, right? So the answer to this is 29. Right, there you go. So that's the answer. Okay, pretty straightforward. Let's move on to question 17. So question 17 is, the mass of the line graph below shows the mass of apples sold in the fruit shop. So mass of apples, that's what you see over here. All right. So like I mentioned before that when you see a graph, we always want to put the numbers. Okay. So at the same time, before looking at the graphs, we also want to see what's the different points of the graphs. Okay. So in this case, we have two gaps before number 10, right? So essentially, the gap in the middle is, if there's two gaps, it's basically 10, right? And then we divide it by 2, okay? And this will give us 5. So the gap in the middle itself, right, in this case is 5. So we are increasing the numbers by 5, right? So then we can just say this is 15, right? You can write everything down because I think it's not a lot. So 20, 25, and then we have 35, right? Oops, 35, and then we have 45. So everything is in the middle, and then lastly we have 55. Okay, so once you add this in, it's a little bit easier for you to actually calculate, right? So now let's do this. Let's go for every day to see what's the number of, or the mass of apples, right? So on Monday is actually 20, right? Okay, so in this case, this is 20 for Monday because the line or the dot is 20 over here. Tuesday is the same, right? So nothing much happens in Tuesday, right? Let's see Wednesday. So Wednesday over here is pointing to 50, right? So we're gonna do that, right? Put here 50. All right. So how about Thursday? Thursday over here, it points to the middle of 45, which is here. Okay, so then that's what we're gonna do. Type in 45. And then last one. Okay, Friday. Okay, so this is 55. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put here as 55. All right. So usually what I like to do is I'll put the numbers below the days here so that's easier to reference. I mean, I'm zooming in a lot. So for you, I just want to make your life much easier. All right. In this case over here, first question says, what was the total mass of apples sold from Monday to Wednesday? So Monday to Wednesday, so the total, right? Okay, so what we're gonna do is, right, total from Monday to Wednesday. So it's equal to basically 20 plus 20 plus 50. And this is equal to 90. So that's the answer. 90 kg, right? Total mass is 90 kg. All right, that's it. That's only the question. Okay, next one. All right, question 18. Name the smallest angle in the figure shown below. So we have a couple of angles over here. We want to know which one is the smallest angle. So I would say the quickest and accurate way is to actually use a protractor. Not quickest, but an accurate way. But another way, which I recommend, is to use a ruler, right? So a ruler has the corners as 90 degrees. So what you can do is that let's measure A over here, right? So you can see A is roughly around 90 degrees. Okay, that's what you see over here. And then if you were to move to B, B is also roughly around 90 degrees as well. Okay, because they are perpendicular or around the same side as the ruler itself. Okay, let's then move this ruler to angle C. So let's put it over here. So it's roughly more than 90 degrees. So definitely this is not the smallest. So we know that in a sense, lah, right? Angle A, right? Let's put here angle, right? In this case, angle A is roughly, right, 90 degrees. Okay, and then we also know that angle B is also roughly 90 degrees. Okay, so B is also roughly around 90 degrees, and then angle C is like definitely more than 90 degrees. Right, so we have roughly a gauge on this. But if you were to use your ruler, you see that angle D is actually less. Whoops. So angle D is less than 90 degrees. From this, right, what can you conclude? So that means the smallest angle should be angle D. So that means the answer to this question is angle D. All right, let's move on to the next question. Question 19. All right, so over here it says measure and write down the size of angle X. Okay, so what we can do is we can take out our protractor as what you see over here. But before that, we want to extend the angle that is not the what do you call this, the bottom line. We want to extend the top line. That's what you see over here. So what we can do is we can actually grab a line. Okay, so we can grab the line and then we just extend as much as possible, right? So that when we were to use our protractor, we are able to measure it. Okay, so let's align our measurement over here. That's what you see over here. Okay, so now you could see that in this case, is it 150 or 32, right? So if you were to look closely over here, it's actually 32 degrees. So that's the answer to this, right? The answer is 32. Oops. Okay, so right side 32 degrees in this case. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, another angle question. So it says here, draw angle ABC 162 degrees using the given line AB. Mark and label the angle. So we have the angle over here, right? So and then we have AB over here, right? So draw ABC using this protractor 262. So what we need to do, I think this is not meant to be drawn, but if you were to look closely, right? So we can just zoom in. Where is 162? So we see 160 over here. Whoops. We see 160 over here. So a lot of times, try not to confuse to 160 over here. So we want to have 160 over here. So what we can do is we want to count downwards, right? downward. So 180 over here. So 160, 161, and 162. So usually what I recommend to do is to use a simple point over here, right? So let me make it red so it's easier to see. And then what you need to do is to have another point. So what I tend to do is you have your B. So I'll just put a point over here like this so that when you use your protractor, right, in this case, let me just duplicate this, right? When you use your protractor, you can actually, okay, let's see also the line is A and B. Let me make it red, right? So why you put this is because when you put your protractor over, your protractor has this like, depends on your protractor, but usually has a perpendicular lines and angle over here. So you actually just need to align the points together so that it will look something like this. So now you align the points and then you can actually draw 162 degrees in this case. So with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the line to 162. That's what you see over here, right? And you go, this is 162. So you also need to mark and label the angle, right? So what you need to do is to have a semicircle. So maybe you can erase this, right? So I'm going to erase this little line over here. And then what I'm going to do is I can use this and to just mark the angle. And then you can type in this case, right? 162, in this case, degrees, right? So don't need to put in red. I use this is because so it's easier to see, but it's basically in black. So it should be like this, 162 degrees. Right, let's move on to question 21. Say, question 21, right? The table below shows the different type of canned drinks sold. A total of 500 canned drinks were sold in a week. How many cans of Milos were sold? Right, so we know the total, which is 500, and we know the different drinks: water, orange juice. Now we want to know what's the Milo, right? So what we can do is we can simply minus the total, right? So simply what we can do is we have Milo. Okay, let me put in black, which is equal to 500 minus 252 minus 123. Okay, so usually I'll just add the non-100 so it's easier to calculate. So should this be 375? Okay, okay, then if we minus, there should be 125 in this case over here. So that's the answer. So Milo itself is 125 canned drinks. I love Milo. All right, let's move on to the next question. Question 22. So container A contains 2/3 liters of water. Container B contains 1/6 lesser than container A. What's the total capacity of container A and B? Okay, so contains 1/6 liters if I were to visualize it. So for example, let's say A and then you have B, right? So let's put B over here. Okay, so container A has 2/3, right? So I'm gonna put it like this, 2/3, right? And then for container B, it has 1/6 liters less. So what does this mean? So this means that it doesn't have, so we don't know what's this, but we know that it has 1/6 liter less than container A, something like this. Okay, so I'm not going to point this here. Okay, so it should be 1.1/6 liter less, so something like this, right? I'll just extend this so it's easier to see. All right, so something like this, right? So now we need to know uh, what is the total capacity of container A and container B. So we don't know container B in this sense. So what we can do is we can get container B first, right? So how we do that is, right? So container B is equal to basically 2 over 3, then minus 1 over 6, right? So now if you were to change 2/3 to the denominator 6, so this will be, if we multiply 2 by each side, it will be 4 over 6 minus 1 over 6, okay? And this will give us 3 over 6, right? So this is container B, right? So container B is 3 over 6, right? We can simplify it, but let's not do that yet, okay? So container, we know container A, right, is equal to 2/3, right? Which is also, we know that's 4/6. So we want to combine, so total equal to, in a way, 4/6 or 2/3 plus 3/6, which is also the same as 4/6 plus 3/6. Okay, and then the answer here, the question says express your answer as a mixed number in the simplest form, right? So now we combine this together, and this will give us, in this case over here, 4/6 plus 3/6. This will give us 7/6, and 7/6 is equal to one whole number, 1/6, not point, so one whole 1/6. So that's the answer, right? The answer is 1/6. There you go, right? So to simplify 7/6, right, if 7, then we divide by 6, this will give us 1, 1 remainder 1. That's why it's over here. So yeah, this is how it looks like. Okay, that's it. All right, let's move on to the next question. Question 23. Okay, so it says here, look at the shapes below. How many quarter circles are there? So what is quarter circles? Right, quarter circles is basically, if I were to draw it out, so I were to have a line, all right, maybe this, then my other line will be the other way, and then we have lastly this line, another line to connect from one end to the other end, but we're going to make it into a quarter circle, right? So essentially, we know that one full circle, so this is a quarter circle, right? 1 out of 4, right? So one full circle, how many quarter circles are there? 4 quarter circles, okay? So we know that one full circle is 4 quarter circles. That means this will be 4 quarter circles. Then we can just duplicate this, right? So this thing over here, right? Oops, this will be 4 as well, right? This will be 4. Okay, so this one, is it 4 or is it another number? So this should be another number. This should be 3, right? So how many quarter circles are there? We have 4 plus 4 plus 4. We have 3 because we have an empty quarter circle over here. Why we know it's a empty quarter circle is because we have this, right? So if you want to visualize it even more, right? So what we can do is, let us put the 4 below, right? So we can split them up actually. So 3, 3, 4. Then let's split them up. So we have one line. Okay, maybe a little bit line. Okay, great. Then we have another line as well, like this, right? So roughly this is how it should look like. There you go. Okay, so then we can just do the same. We have 4, 4, 4. Then last one, hopefully this also is the same roughly. Let me do, yes. Okay, great. So now you see it looks much better. So now total quarter circle. So total quarter circles is equal to 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 3. So 4 times 3 is 12 plus 3, it should be 15. So the answer to this is 15. Okay, there you go. Answer is 15. All right, let's move on to the next question. Question 24. Right. So Tessa used 1/4 meters of string to make ribbons. Mary used 1/3 meters of string more than Tessa to make ribbons. What is the total length of string used to make ribbons? Okay, so if I were to visualize it using models, we have Tessa, okay, and then we have Mary over here. Okay, then what we can do is just have a simple 1.4, 1/4, not 1.4, and then Mary used 1/3 more, right? So in this case, right, so we have 1/4 and then we have 1/3 more, right? So this should be 1/3 in this case, right? So what we want is basically the total. So what is the total between these two, right? So this is the question mark. Okay, so what we want to do is to basically just combine everything together. That's it, right? So what we can do is total is equal to 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/3. Okay, so we also need to know that the common multiple, right? So the lowest common multiple of 4 and 3 is equal to, you guessed it, 12, right? So what we need to do is we need to change this, right? From total 1/4, okay? Actually, we can do this as well, right? So 1/4 plus 1/4, we simplify it to 2 over 4 plus 1 over 3, right? We can simplify even further, actually, to become half plus 1 over 3. Okay, so now we don't need to find the multiple of 4 over 3. We now just need to find the lowest common multiple for 2 and 3, which is actually 6. So since 1 over 2 half is actually 3 over 6, right? Plus 1/3 is 2 over 6. And this will give us 5 over 6, right? Meters. So that's the total, right? So there you go. This is how we do it for this question. So the answer is 5 over 6 meters in this case. All right. Pretty straightforward. Let's move on to the next question. Question 25, right? There were some marbles in a bag. John took 2/5 of the marbles and Tim took the rest. Tim took 30 more marbles than John. How many marbles were there in the bag at first? All right, so the first step to this is usually what I like to do is I want to convert our fractions over here into units. Okay, so when we say, in a sense, John took two, oops, took 2/5 of marbles, that means John took 2 units of marbles, right? So in a way, let me just put this over here. So John is equal to 2 units. Okay. And then what's the total? So the total is actually the denominator here, right? So total is equal to 5 units, right? Then Tim took the rest. So Tim, in this case, is equal to 5 minus 2 equal to 3 units. Okay, so I will also share how this looks like in terms of model. Okay, so let me just remove all of this. Okay, so Tim is 3 units, right? Okay, now we know that Tim took 30 more marbles than John. So this basically, I call it as difference. So this whole thing is, I call this, so the difference is equal to 30, right? In this case over here. So the difference here is 30. So that means if difference is 30 and then difference also between John and Tim in units is equal to 3 minus 2 equal to 1 unit. All right. So yeah, 1 unit. Right. So that means since the difference is 30 and the different units is 1 unit, so that means 1 unit is equal to 30. Okay, so how many marbles were there in the bag at first? So that means the total, right? So 5 units times, so 5 units equal to 5 times 30 equal to 150 in this case. All right. So yeah, the answer is, the answer is 150 marbles. Marbles, right? So another thing is that if you want to use models, you can, right? So it's actually very similar to what we've done here. Okay, so what we can do is, so in a way, you also need to know how to put this as to convert the fractions to units, right? So John took 2/5, right? So that means 2/5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So in a sense, John took 2/5, right? So John took 2/5, while the rest is Tim. There you go, right? Then Tim, right? And then the difference is basically, if I can move this, so the difference is 30, right? Which is another arrow over here, and this is 30. There you go. Then yeah, how many marbles? So in a way you can calculate lah, right? So yeah, same. Okay, so that's it for this 2/5. I mean 25, question 25. Let's go to question 26. This is the last question. So it says here, the graph below shows the cost of potatoes of different masses. So 2 kg is how much? 4, 6, 8, and 10. Right. So Mrs. Tan bought 6 kg of potatoes. She paid the cashier $50. How much change did she receive? Okay. So in this case, we want to know how much it costs for the potatoes according to how many kilograms. So in this case, the mass of potatoes, 2 kilograms is $4, right? Dollars 4. I'm gonna put brackets so it's easier to see. Dollars 4. Okay, let me put it here beside this. Okay, dollars 4. So 4, this is dollars 8, right? Okay, so if you were to see 4, it will be 8. And then same thing over here. 6, oops. 6 here is $12, right? $12, right? 6 kg is $12. Then 8 is $16, and then 10 is $20. Basically, we multiply by 2 for each kilograms, right? 10 is 20, 16 is 8, 12 is 16, 4, 8, and this one, right? So if I were to just make this a little bit smaller so that, at least they can be aligned well. That's what you see over here, right? 4, 8, 16, and then 20 is 10. All right. So now, Mrs. Tan bought 6 kg of potatoes. She paid at cashier 50. So how much change did she receive? So 6 kg of potatoes is equal to $12, right? She paid the cashier $50. So what's the change? It's equal to 50 minus 12. Oops, minus 12. And this is $38. Okay. And that's it. That's the answer. So the answer to this is $38. All right. So next question is Mr. Lim bought 8 kg of potatoes. Mr. Song bought 10 kg of potatoes. How much more money did Mr. Song spend than Mr. Lim? So when you see more money, more song, this is essentially what's the difference. Okay. So how much more money? So basically what's the difference between Mr. Song and Mr. Lim? Right. So that's essentially it. So what we can do, so I'm gonna write out here this difference are. Okay, so let's calculate Mr. Lim. Right. So here Mr. Lim, okay, is equal to 8 kg potatoes. Right. So what we can do is just have 8. We can look at 8 kgs. This is $16, right? $16. And then Mr. Song, 10 kg of potatoes. Look at it, 10 kg is $20, right? $20. So how much more money? So basically the difference, or how much more, is 20 minus 16, right? Is equal to $4. That's it. The answer here is dollars 4. All right. And that's about it for this question, right? So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want more of this kind of video, subscribe down below and comment out what are the, exam papers you want me to go through next. See you in the next one. Bye bye.